The grand chamber of the Galactic Senate stretched across a kilometer of polished stone and crystalline architecture. Thousands of years of interstellar politics had shaped this space on Proxima Centauri 4, the neutral ground where civilizations spanning dozens of light years gathered to maintain the delicate balance of galactic governance. Today, the chamber was filled to capacity, with hundreds of delegates representing worlds from across known space. Their diverse physiologies accommodated by specialized seating arrangements and atmospheric bubbles. Ambassador John Miller strode down the central aisle, his footsteps echoing across the suddenly hushed chamber. Despite the crushing weight of the moment, his posture remained straight, his face a careful mask of diplomatic calm. The black and silver uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps gleamed under the artificial light, the single blue planet emblem on his chest standing in stark contrast to the elaborate regalia worn by many of the alien representatives. Inside, however, Miller's emotions churned with a volatile mix of tension, anger, and an odd sense of fatalistic calm. He had known this day might come since he'd first accepted the position of Earth's ambassador to the galactic community 1 decade ago. The careful dance of diplomacy could only last so long before ancient prejudices and fear of competition would turn the tide against humanity. It had been nearly a century since Earth had made first contact and joined the galactic community. A century of careful positioning, of presenting a face of eager cooperation while concealing the true extent of human technological development. A century of learning the hard way that in interstellar politics, perceived weakness invited oppression. Earth had played its part well, the eager newcomer, grateful for scraps of technological knowledge, willing to trade resources and serve as a buffer zone between competing powers, all while hiding their true capabilities. The Grand Speaker, a tall, willowy being with opalescent skin and 6 upper appendages, raised a ceremonial staff. The chatter throughout the chamber died immediately. "This special session of the Galactic Senate is called to order," the speaker announced, voice amplified to reach every corner of the vast chamber. "We have concluded the vote regarding Resolution 7729, the temporary isolation of Earth." Miller kept his gaze fixed straight ahead, though he could feel the stares from the assembled delegates, some sympathetic, most triumphant or indifferent. "The final tally stands at 94 votes in favor of isolation, 23 against." The Grand Speaker paused, the faceted eyes sweeping across the chamber. "With the required 2/3 majority achieved, Earth will enter a period of isolation for 50 standard years, effective immediately. All trade, communication, and travel rights are hereby suspended." The boom of the ceremonial staff striking the floor echoed throughout the chamber like a death knell. Miller did not flinch. Instead, his right hand moved casually to his wrist communicator, pressing a sequence of 3 buttons hidden beneath his sleeve. "Lazarus active," he subvocalized. The quantum-encrypted message instantly transmitted back to Earth through channels the Senate believed impossible. The die was cast. 100 years of preparation were about to bear fruit. As delegates began filing out of the chamber, Miller caught the eye of Archduke Vex, representative of the Draconian Confederacy and the primary architect behind Earth's isolation. The Archduke's scaled face stretched into what passed for a smile among his kind, a predatory display of razor-sharp teeth. Miller offered a small nod in return, surprising the Archduke with his apparent acceptance of defeat. Little did Vex know that this vote wasn't an ending for Earth. It was merely the beginning. President Richard Mason stood at the window of the Oval Office, hands clasped behind his back as he stared out at the Washington Monument gleaming in the distance. The weight of 5 billion lives rested on his shoulders, and yet he felt an almost serene calm. They had prepared for this possibility for generations. "Lazarus Protocol has been initiated, Madam President," said National Security Advisor Lisa Howard, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Ambassador Miller's signal was received 12 minutes ago. Mason turned, her silver-streaked hair catching the morning light. At 63, she carried herself with the gravitas of someone who had spent a lifetime in public service, culminating in this most crucial moment of human history. "Have our operatives confirmed the vote?" she asked. "Yes, Madam President. 94 to 23. They didn't even try to make it close." Howard's disgust was evident. "The isolation order has already been transmitted to all Senate member worlds. Our official communications channels will be severed within the hour." "And our unofficial ones?" Howard allowed herself a small smile. "Operating perfectly. Our quantum entanglement network remains undetected." President Mason nodded and pressed a button on her desk. The room's windows instantly darkened, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the Oval Office, showing a real-time strategic map of Earth, its orbital installations, and the solar system beyond. "Begin Phase 1, Mason ordered. "Wake up our sleeping giants." Across the solar system, installations that had been disguised as mining operations, research outposts, or simply hidden through advanced cloaking technology suddenly hummed to life. On the far side of the moon, what appeared to be a modest scientific outpost expanded as massive hangar doors slid open, revealing a vast underground complex housing dozens of warships that had been constructed in secret over decades. Similar facilities activated on Mars, within the asteroid belt, and deep within the cloudy atmosphere of Jupiter, where humanity's most advanced shipyards had remained hidden from prying extraterrestrial eyes. Beneath Earth's oceans, massive underwater facilities began powering up defensive systems that could shield the entire planet. Satellite networks thought to be simple communication relays, reconfigured into defensive grids, capable of detecting and intercepting threats from light years away. In a hardened bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Diane Russell watched as her command center transformed from a monitoring station into the nerve center of humanity's defense forces. "Status report," she demanded, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos as personnel rushed to their battle stations. "Lunar Fleet reports ready, Admiral," her second-in-command responded. "All 30 vessels powered and crewed. Captain Bennett has assumed command of the flagship Defiance." "Jupiter and Mars contingents?" "Jupiter reports minor delays due to atmospheric storms, but will be operational within 20 minutes. Mars fleet is already departing their hangars." Admiral Russell nodded, studying the strategic display. "And our quantum intelligence network?" "Operating at 100%, ma'am. We're receiving real-time data from all our assets in Senate space, including our operative on Proxima Centauri 4. "Excellent. Prepare the jump coordinates. I want our first wave ready to deploy the moment we receive President Mason's authorization." Across the command center, officers coordinated the largest military mobilization in human history, one that the rest of the galaxy had no idea was coming. In the shadows of the Senate's imposing architecture, Ben White moved with practiced nonchalance. To the various species bustling through the diplomatic quarter, he appeared to be nothing more than another human aide, one of dozens assigned to menial tasks within the Senate bureaucracy. His unremarkable appearance and carefully cultivated air of subservience had made him effectively invisible for the 5 years he'd been embedded on Proxima Centauri 4. Today, however, was the day his true purpose would be revealed. White ducked into an empty maintenance corridor, quickly scanning for surveillance devices with a tool disguised as a standard datapad. Finding none, he removed a small device from his pocket and placed it against the wall. The device silently burrowed into the structure, establishing a direct link to the Senate's security grid. "Mockingbird to nest," he subvocalized, the words carried via quantum entanglement directly to Earth's command center. "Package delivered. Accessing defense grid now." Within seconds, detailed schematics of the Senate's defensive systems began flowing through the secure channel. Shield generators, weapons platforms, sensor arrays, and most crucially, the locations and access codes for the emergency evacuation protocols. White's heart raced, but his hands remained steady. For years, he had played the part of the insignificant human, enduring the casual prejudice and dismissive attitudes of the Senate species. Now, as he transmitted the final piece of intelligence that would enable Earth's response, he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. "Transmission complete," he reported, moving to Extraction Point Alpha. As he made his way toward the diplomatic quarter, where Ambassador Miller was being held prior to his forced departure, White passed a group of draconian officials. They barely glanced at him. Their conversation focused on the celebration planned for later that evening, a smug commemoration of Earth's isolation. White suppressed a smile. They would have something very different to consider before the night was through. Captain Olivia Bennett stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiance, the flagship of Earth's lunar fleet. At 45, she had spent half her life preparing for this moment, training on simulators and short-range missions within the solar system, always careful to remain undetected by the Senate's occasional monitoring probes. "All systems operational, Captain," her first officer reported. "Quantum drive at full capacity. Weapons and defensive systems online." Bennett nodded, studying the tactical display. The Defiance was the pinnacle of human military technology, a seamless blend of Earth innovations and reverse-engineered alien tech, improved upon by generations of human scientists working in secret. Nearly 500 meters of advanced alloys and energy systems, housing a crew of 300 and enough firepower to reduce a small moon to rubble. And it was just one of 50 such vessels prepared to jump into Senate space. "Communications from Strategic Command, Captain," the communications officer announced. "President Mason is addressing all fleet personnel." The main view screen shifted to show President Mason standing in the White House Situation Room, her expression solemn but determined. "Men and women of Earth's Defense Force," she began. "Today marks the end of a century of preparation and the beginning of a new chapter in human history. The Galactic Senate has voted to isolate our world, believing us weak and compliant. They seek to contain what they fear might one day challenge their dominance." Mason's eyes seemed to meet Bennett's through the screen. "They have grievously miscalculated. Operation Lazarus is now active. Your mission is clear: secure our position in the galactic community through a decisive show of force, rescue our diplomatic personnel, and establish control of key strategic points that will force the Senate to negotiate with us as equals." The President paused, her voice softening slightly. "I need not remind you that while we demonstrate our strength, we must also show restraint. We are not conquerors or oppressors. We seek only the respect and equality that has been denied us. Minimize casualties where possible, but do not hesitate to defend yourselves and complete your objectives. The fate of Earth rests with you now. Good luck and Godspeed." As the transmission ended, Bennett turned to her crew, seeing the same mixture of tension and determination on every face. "You heard the President," she said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "Navigation. Set coordinates for the primary jump point behind Proxima Centauri 4. Tactical. Prepare all weapon systems but hold fire unless fired upon. Communications. Ensure all ships in the first wave are synchronized for simultaneous arrival." She paused, looking at each officer in turn. "The Senate believes they're putting us in our place today. Let's show them exactly where that place is." Throughout the bridge, officers responded with crisp acknowledgments as the massive ship hummed with increasing power. Similar scenes played out across 49 other vessels as Earth's first strike force prepared to make the jump into Senate space. "All ships report ready, Captain," the first officer announced. Bennett took a deep breath. "Execute jump in 3, 2, 1, jump." In perfect synchronization, 50 warships of the Earth Defense Force vanished from the solar system in flashes of controlled quantum displacement, leaving behind only the faintest ripple in space-time. In the Central Defensive Command of Proxima Centauri 4, Commander Z of the Senate Security Force stifled a yawn. The quadruple-armed Calaxian had served 20 cycles in this posting, and each had been more boring than the last. The Senate world's defensive grid was considered impenetrable, a combination of energy shields, automated weapon platforms, and a permanent fleet of 50 patrol vessels that constantly orbited the planet. "Another uneventful shift," his second commented, the translator, rendering the clicking language into standard Galactic. "As it should be," Z replied, running a routine check on the sensor grid. Though the humans' isolation ceremony has everyone on edge, as if those primitives could pose any threat. A junior officer approached with a refreshment, which Z accepted with one of his lower arms. "They say the human ambassador took the vote with unusual calm," the young officer remarked. "Of course he did," Z chuckled. "What choice did he have? Their world is alone now, cut off from—" A piercing alarm interrupted him, and the command center's main display flashed with urgent warnings. "Multiple quantum signatures detected," the sensor officer shouted, all 4 hands flying across the control panel. Massive energy spikes directly behind the Senate complex. Z jumped to his station, spilling his drink in the process. "Impossible. Nothing can jump that precisely through our defensive grid. How many vessels?" 50. "No. Wait." The officer's voice faltered. "Sir, sensors confirm 50 capital-class warships of unknown configuration. They've somehow managed to jump within our inner defense perimeter." Before Z could respond, the communication officer turned with panic evident in his gestures. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. They identify themselves as the Earth Defense Force." "Earth?" Z's translator couldn't quite capture the mixture of disbelief and sudden terror in his voice. "Put it on screen." The face that appeared on the main display belonged to a human female, her expression calm but unyielding. "This is Captain Olivia Bennett of the EDF Defiance to Proxima Centauri Defense Command. We are here to retrieve our diplomatic personnel and protest the illegal isolation vote against Earth. Power down your weapon systems and lower your shields. Any aggressive action will be met with immediate response." Z stared at the screen in shock. "How did you—" "This is impossible. Your world doesn't possess jump technology of this precision." The human captain's expression didn't change. "You have 30 seconds to comply. We have already transmitted the deactivation codes for your primary defense grid." "Deactivation codes?" Z turned to his security officer. "Check the grid status, now." "Sir," the officer's voice shook. "Someone has already input administrative overrides into the main defense network. Shield generators 2 through 17 are powering down." Z slammed all 4 hands onto his console. "Override the override! Launch all patrol vessels! Contact the High Command immediately!" But it was already too late. As the Senate's defense forces scrambled to respond, 7 of their patrol ships moved to intercept the human fleet. What happened next would rewrite the understanding of military power in the galaxy. From the lead Earth vessel, a beam of concentrated gravitational energy, technology thought impossible by Senate scientists, lanced out and struck the first patrol ship. The vessel didn't explode or break apart. Instead, it imploded, crushed by an artificially generated singularity that collapsed in on itself a moment later, leaving nothing but scattered particles where a warship had been. 6 more gravitational lances fired in perfect synchronization, and 6 more patrol ships vanished from existence. In the space of 10 seconds, Earth had demonstrated weapons technology that rendered conventional defenses meaningless. "All remaining vessels, hold position," Z ordered, his voice cracking with fear. "Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." On the screen, Captain Bennett nodded. "A wise decision, Commander. Now about our diplomatic personnel." Ambassador Miller had been confined to the diplomatic reception area, a luxurious prison where he awaited transport to the isolation vessel that would return him to Earth. Two draconian guards stood at the door, their contempt for him barely concealed. "The mighty humans." One guard sneered in heavily accented Galactic standard. "Not so important now, are you?" Miller ignored the taunt, maintaining his composure as he had throughout the ordeal. The isolation vote had been a formality. The real decisions had been made months ago in private chambers by the dominant powers of the Senate. Earth had been deemed too unpredictable, too rapidly advancing to be allowed free interaction with the galactic community. So they thought to put humanity in a timeout, like children who had misbehaved. A sudden commotion in the corridor outside caught his attention. The guards tensed, drawing their energy weapons and moving toward the door. It slid open to reveal a Senate security officer, his uniform disheveled. "Emergency evacuation," the officer panted. "All diplomatic personnel must be moved to secure bunkers immediately. The complex is under attack."
"Attack?"
The senior guard's scales bristled.
"By whom?"
The answer came in the form of a stun blast that dropped both guards where they stood. The security officer straightened, his features shifting as the holographic disguise dissolved to reveal Ben White. "Ambassador," White nodded briskly, tossing Miller a sidearm. "Your ride is here." Miller caught the weapon with practiced ease. "Timing." "Perfect, sir. Earth forces have neutralized the orbital defenses. We have a shuttle waiting on landing pad 7. They moved swiftly through the corridors, encountering panicked Senate staff running in all directions. The distant sound of energy weapons fire echoed through the complex, but their path remained remarkably clear. "Our advance team secured this route 5 minutes ago," White explained as they approached a service elevator. "Captain Bennett sends her regards and apologizes for the tight extraction window." Miller smiled for the first time that day. "I've known Olivia since the academy. Punctuality was never her strong suit." The elevator carried them to the roof level, where chaos reigned. Senate security forces exchanged fire with a team of black-clad Earth Special Forces who had secured a perimeter around a military shuttle. Above, the sky was filled with the imposing silhouettes of Earth warships, their hulls gleaming in the light of Proxima Centauri. "Ambassador on approach," White announced through his comm as they sprinted toward the shuttle. "Cover fire requested." A barrage of precision fire from the Earth troops suppressed the Senate forces, long enough for Miller and White to reach the shuttle ramp. As they bounded up into the craft, Miller glanced back at the Senate complex, the supposed heart of galactic civilization, now in disarray. "Everyone's aboard," the shuttle pilot announced. "Lifting off now. ETA to Defiance is 3 minutes." As the shuttle rose from the landing pad, accelerating toward the waiting Earth flagship, Miller moved to the cockpit. Through the view screen, he could see the full extent of Earth's military presence, 50 warships arranged in perfect formation around the Senate world. Their weapon systems active but holding fire. "Beautiful sight, isn't it, sir?" the pilot remarked. Miller nodded, taking in the scene that would soon become historic. A century of patience and preparation, and they never suspected a thing. The shuttle docked with the Defiance, and Miller was escorted directly to the bridge where Captain Bennett waited, standing tall amid the controlled activity of her command crew. "Ambassador," she greeted him with a formal salute. "Welcome aboard. I trust your extraction was satisfactory." "Exemplary, Captain." Miller returned the salute. "The President's timing was impeccable." Bennett gestured to the tactical display. "Phase 1 is complete. Our forces have neutralized the immediate threat and secured your safe return. The Senate fleet is standing down, having witnessed our gravitational weapons. Phase 2 is awaiting your confirmation." Miller studied the display, noting the positions of Earth forces throughout the system. "Proceed with Phase 2, Captain. Let's secure our negotiating position." Bennett nodded to her communications officer. "Transmit the execute order to all Phase 2 elements. Operation Helios is now active. Across 5 key points in Senate space. The second wave of Earth's response was about to begin." The strategic brilliance of Earth's military planners became apparent as the second phase of Operation Lazarus unfolded. While the main fleet had captured the galaxy's attention with its dramatic appearance at Proxima Centauri 4, smaller, stealthier teams had been dispatched to 5 crucial spatial junction points, the central nodes of the Senate's faster-than-light travel network. At Junction Station Epsilon, the primary hub connecting the Senate core worlds to the Outer Rim territories, Commander Sarah Liang led her small team of 20 operatives toward the control center. Unlike the direct approach at Proxima Centauri, this mission required subtlety. Security patterns unchanged. Her second-in-command reported as they moved through maintenance tunnels beneath the station's main concourse. "They haven't received warning from Proxima yet." "Good," Liang replied, checking the schematic on her wrist display. "We have approximately 12 minutes before communications reach this sector. That should be more than enough time." The junction stations represented the true power of the Senate. Controlling these nodes meant controlling the flow of trade, communication, and military response throughout galactic space. Each station housed the advanced navigational beacons that made safe FTL travel possible, along with the communication relays that maintained the Senate's governance across vast distances. Liang's team reached a junction box where the station's main power conduits intersected. Her technical specialist went to work immediately, bypassing security systems and inserting a quantum processor that would allow Earth to control the station's functions remotely. "Primary systems accessed," the specialist announced after tense minutes of work. "Uploading our command protocols now." Throughout the station, subtle changes began occurring in the operating systems. Security cameras entered loops, showing normal activity while the Earth team continued their infiltration. Communication systems remained functional, but now passed through Earth's filters, allowing human operators to monitor and, if necessary, alter the information flowing through the network. Similar operations were being carried out at the other 4 junction points, creating a stranglehold on the Senate's ability to coordinate any response to Earth's sudden show of force. When Station Commander Grek finally received the emergency transmission from Proxima Centauri, 17 minutes later, his immediate attempt to alert Senate security forces died in the communication system. Instead, a carefully crafted message reporting normal conditions was automatically transmitted. By the time Grek realized something was wrong and attempted to investigate personally, he found himself locked in his office. The station's environmental controls adjusted to deliver a mild sedative through the ventilation system. Throughout the 5 junction stations, similar scenes played out as Earth forces secured control without firing a single shot. The Senate's ability to coordinate a unified response had been surgically removed before most of its members even realized they were under attack. Back at Proxima Centauri 4, the Senate chamber had been hastily reconvened, though less than half the delegates had managed to return amid the chaos. Archduke Vex, his usual composure shattered, pounded his scaled fist on the speaking platform. "This is an act of war," he roared, reptilian features contorted with rage. "The humans have revealed their true nature, treacherous barbarians hiding behind a mask of civilization." The Grand Speaker, visibly shaken, attempted to maintain order as panicked delegates shouted over one another. Reports were flooding in about Earth warships appearing throughout Senate space, about communication networks mysteriously failing, about defense systems suddenly going offline. "We must organize an immediate military response," Vex continued. "Every member world must contribute to a punitive fleet. We will crush this human rebellion and—" "With what ships?" "Archduke." The calm voice cut through the chamber as a hollow projection appeared in the center of the floor. President Mason stood with hands clasped behind her back. Her image transmitted simultaneously to every Senate world still capable of receiving communications. "This is President Richard Mason of Earth. I address the Senate not as a supplicant, but as the leader of a sovereign power that will no longer accept second-class status in the galactic community." Vex sputtered in outrage, But the Grand Speaker signaled for silence, recognizing the precariousness of their position. For 100 years, Mason continued, Earth has endured patronizing treatment from the Senate powers. We have been denied access to full technological exchange, excluded from critical security councils, and treated as a resource to be exploited, rather than a partner to be respected. The president's expression hardened. Today's vote to isolate Earth was the final insult. It has forced us to reveal capabilities we had hoped would never be necessary. Let me be absolutely clear. Earth currently controls all 5 major junction points in Senate space. We have demonstrated weapons technology that renders your defensive systems obsolete. We have the capacity to isolate any Senate world, or all of them, should we choose to employ the same tactics you sought to use against us. Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber as the implications sank in. However, Mason's tone softened slightly. Conquest is not our objective. Earth desires only equal standing in the galactic community, the respect due to a civilization capable of determining its own destiny. To that end, I am dispatching Ambassador Miller back to the Senate with our terms for a new relationship between Earth and the galactic community. The projection shifted to show the Earth fleet arranged around Proxima Centauri 4, a stark visual reminder of the power dynamics that had so suddenly reversed. The Senate has 24 hours to prepare for these negotiations. I suggest you use this time wisely. Mason out. As the projection faded, the chamber erupted into chaos. The Grand Speaker banged his ceremonial staff repeatedly, trying to restore order, while Archduke Vex stood frozen, his carefully constructed power base crumbling around him. In the midst of the uproar, a junior aide approached the Grand Speaker and whispered urgently in his ear. The Speaker's already pale features grew ashen. "Silence," he finally commanded, his amplified voice cutting through the din. "I have just received confirmation that Earth forces have indeed secured control of all 5 primary junction stations. Additionally, 17 secondary communication hubs have gone offline. We are effectively isolated from nearly 60% of Senate space." The pronouncement sent another wave of panic through the assembled delegates. "What are our military options?" someone shouted. The Speaker's faceted eyes swept the chamber. "Limited. Our primary defense fleet has been ordered to stand down after witnessing the effectiveness of Earth's weapons. Reports suggest their gravitational technology could render our entire navy ineffective." "Then we must negotiate." A voice of reason finally emerged from the Andorian delegation. "The humans have shown remarkable restraint. They could have destroyed our forces, rather than merely neutralizing them." Archduke Vex whirled on the Andorian delegate. "Restraint? They have revealed themselves as duplicitous threats to the established order. They have been building military capacity in secret while pretending to be primitive newcomers." "Perhaps," the Andorian countered calmly. "They were simply protecting themselves in a galaxy that refused to accept them as equals. We have, after all, just voted to isolate their entire world on your recommendation, Archduke." As recriminations flew across the chamber, the Grand Speaker retreated to consult with what remained of the Senate's Security Council. The unthinkable had happened. Earth, the supposed newcomer, had just demonstrated military and strategic superiority over the entire Senate in a single, coordinated operation. The balance of power had shifted in a matter of hours, and no one was certain what the new galactic order would look like when the dust settled. Aboard the Defiance, Ambassador Miller reviewed the strategic updates flowing in from Earth's forces across Senate space. The operation had gone even more smoothly than anticipated, with minimal casualties on either side, a point of pride for the Earth military planners, who had emphasized precision over brute force. "Junction stations Alpha through Epsilon are secure," Captain Bennett reported. "Our stealth teams at the communication hubs report success as well. We now control approximately 63% of the Senate's FTL communication network." Miller nodded, studying the holographic display. "And the Senate fleet?" maintaining position at the outer defense perimeter. After our demonstration of the gravitational lances, they seem reluctant to engage. Intelligence suggests their command structure is in disarray, with conflicting orders coming from various faction leaders. Excellent. Miller straightened his diplomatic uniform, preparing for his return to the Senate chamber. And the rest of our fleet. The second wave has completed its jumps. We now have 120 vessels deployed at strategic points throughout Senate space, with another 80 on standby within our solar system. Bennett's expression remained professional, but a hint of pride crept into her voice. The Jupiter contingent reports that their atmospheric concealment performed flawlessly during launch. Senate monitoring satellites never detected a thing. Miller allowed himself a small smile. A century of preparation, Captain. Our ancestors who began this project would be proud to see its fruition. A communications officer approached. Ambassador, President Mason is requesting to speak with you before you return to the Senate. Put her through to my private quarters. I'll take it there. Miller turned back to Bennett. Maintain our current posture, Captain. No aggressive actions unless fired upon, but ensure our forces remain at full combat readiness. Understood, sir. In his quarters, Miller activated the secure quantum communication link. President Mason's image appeared, the Oval Office visible behind her. John, she greeted him warmly, dispensing with formalities. Excellent work. The operation has exceeded our most optimistic projections. Thank you, Madam President. Our military performed brilliantly, and the strategic planning was impeccable. Mason nodded. And now comes the more difficult part, diplomacy. Are you prepared for the negotiations? I am. The Senate is in disarray, their power structure fracturing as we speak. Archduke Vex is desperately trying to maintain control, but many delegates are already distancing themselves from him. They recognize the new reality. Good. Mason's expression grew serious. Remember our objectives. John, we don't seek to dismantle the Senate or impose Earth's dominance. We want recognition as equals, full technological exchange rights, and proportional representation in all security and economic councils. And the guarantee against future isolation attempts, Miller added. Yes, that's non-negotiable. Mason paused. There's one more thing. The intelligence from our quantum network indicates that 17 systems are already preparing to break from Senate control, regardless of the outcome of these negotiations. They see this as an opportunity to escape from under the thumb of the dominant powers. Miller considered this information. That could work in our favor. A more fragmented galactic political landscape might be more conducive to Earth's long-term security interests. Possibly. But it could also lead to instability. The last thing we need is a galaxy fractured into competing power blocks. Mason leaned forward. Your secondary objective is to propose a new framework, a galactic alliance based on genuine equality, rather than the current hierarchical Senate structure. We believe many worlds would welcome such a change. A bold move, Miller observed. From isolation to proposing a reorganization of galactic governance in the span of a day, Mason smiled. Go big or go home, Ambassador. Earth has hidden in the shadows long enough. It's time we helped shape a better future for the galaxy, one that includes us as full partners. I'll do my best, Madam President. I know you will, John. Good luck. As the communication ended, Miller took a moment to gather his thoughts. In a few hours, he would walk back into the Senate chamber, not as a supplicant facing punishment, but as the representative of a power that had just demonstrated its ability to bring the galactic community to its knees. And yet, Earth sought not conquest but cooperation, albeit on new terms. It would be a delicate balance to strike, showing strength without inspiring fear, proposing change without appearing revolutionary. But if anyone could navigate those diplomatic waters, it was John Miller. After all, he had spent the last decade preparing for precisely this moment. 2 days later, a transformed Senate chamber hosted representatives from 412 worlds across the galaxy. The traditional hierarchical seating had been abandoned, with all delegates arranged in a circular pattern, symbolizing the equality that would form the foundation of the new galactic order. President Mason stood at the center, having made the unprecedented journey from Earth to personally oversee the signing of what was already being called the Proxima Accords. Beside her, Ambassador Miller looked considerably more relaxed than he had during his last appearance in this chamber. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning. Mason addressed the assembled delegates, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. The old Galactic Senate, built on ancient hierarchies and fear of change, has given way to a new vision, the Galactic Alliance of Free Worlds. The delegates listened in attentive silence. Many had been shocked by Earth's revelation of power, but the subsequent restraint shown by human forces had done much to alleviate fears of conquest or oppression. Instead, Earth had proposed a radical restructuring of galactic governance based on principles that, while revolutionary to some, appealed to many worlds that had long chafed under the dominance of the traditional Senate powers. The alliance we establish today recognizes the sovereign right of each world to determine its own path of development. Mason continued. It provides for mutual defense, open technological exchange, and collaborative solutions to challenges that affect us all. No single power or species will dominate this alliance. Decisions will be made through consensus, with safeguards to protect the rights of all members, regardless of their technological development or military strength. She gestured to the document displayed holographically above the chamber floor. The Proxima Accords, the product of 48 hours of intensive negotiation. Earth did not come to this moment seeking to impose our will on the galaxy. We came seeking the respect and equality that had been denied us. In revealing our true capabilities, we hope to demonstrate not just our power, but our potential as partners in building a better future for all sentient beings. Archduke Vex, his influence severely diminished but still representing the Draconian Confederacy, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The new arrangement would significantly reduce the power of his people, who had been among the dominant forces in the old Senate. Yet even he had been forced to acknowledge the new reality. Earth could not be subjugated, and many worlds were eager to embrace the more equitable system being proposed. I now invite the representatives of all worlds present to signal their acceptance of the Proxima Accords. Mason concluded. Let this be remembered as the day when fear gave way to hope, when domination yielded to cooperation, and when the galaxy took its first step toward a truly united future. One by one, delegates approached the central platform to register their world's acceptance of the new compact. Some came eagerly, others with reservation, but the momentum was unmistakable. Within hours, 375 worlds had signed the accords, with the remainder requesting time for consultation with their governments. As the historic session concluded, Mason and Miller found themselves in a small antechamber with Admiral Russell and Captain Bennett, who had been invited to represent Earth's military at the ceremony. "Congratulations, Madam President," Admiral Russell said, raising a glass of champagne that had been brought from Earth for the occasion. "Operation Lazarus has succeeded beyond our most optimistic projections." "Indeed," Mason replied, though her expression remained thoughtful. "But this is just the beginning. We've created a new framework for galactic relations, but making it function as intended will be the real challenge." Miller nodded in agreement. Already, some of the traditional powers are maneuvering to maintain their influence within the new structure. The Draconians, in particular, are unlikely to abandon their expansionist ambitions simply because of a new political arrangement. "Which is why our military posture will remain vigilant," Bennett added. "The fleet remains deployed at strategic positions throughout Alliance space, and our technological advantage gives us a significant deterrent capability." "Yes, but we must be careful," Mason cautioned. Our revelation of the gravitational lance technology has already spurred research efforts across the galaxy. We can expect our technological edge to erode over time. Admiral Russell smiled. Fortunately, we didn't reveal all our capabilities in this operation. The quantum phase shields and temporal displacement engines remain our closely guarded secrets, and our research teams continue to make advances. Speaking of which, Miller interjected, lowering his voice despite the secure nature of the room. There's the matter of the Andromeda signal. The mood in the room sobered instantly. For the past 5 years, Earth's most advanced sensors had detected anomalous energy signatures from the Andromeda galaxy, patterns too regular to be natural phenomena, too powerful to be ignored. The science team believes we're looking at 10 to 15 years before whatever is generating those signals reaches the boundary of our galaxy, Mason said quietly. Perhaps that's the real reason we needed to establish the alliance now. United, we stand a better chance of facing whatever's coming. The 4 leaders of humanity gazed at the holographic display that had materialized at the center of the table. A 3-dimensional representation of the Andromeda galaxy, with pulsing red indicators marking the source of the mysterious signals. Well, Captain Bennett said after a moment of contemplative silence, I suppose we should be grateful for the Senate's isolation vote. Without it, we might never have revealed our true capabilities in time to prepare for this new challenge. Miller raised his glass. To the Senate's last mistake, and humanity's next chapter. As they toasted, beyond the walls of the chamber, the news of Earth's emergence as a major galactic power and the formation of the Alliance spread across thousands of worlds. The old order had fallen, swept away in a single day by forces that had been hidden in plain sight for a century. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, something was moving inexorably closer, a challenge that would test not just humanity, but the entire new alliance they had helped to forge. The Senate had ruled against Earth, and that vote had indeed been their last mistake. But for humanity and their new allies, the true test was only beginning.